Hey YouTube, Travis here. Well, barely had any time to get to work on that thing right there, and this thing kind of fell into my lap. This is a 1980, made in November of 1980. It's a Clinton 50-A, and this bike is complete, and it's actually quite unique. I like this thing a lot, and I'll show you why. It's got a couple little features that are actually quite ahead of its time. See, there's the model number right there. I've got the other side cover in my garage. I set it right there. I'll show you why here in a minute. But on first glance, this thing looks kind of like a basket case, and that's what I thought when I bought it. This was another $125 moped, but this thing is deluxe, and it's quite interesting. It's got a lot of features that I like. All right, let's go take a closer look. Now you might say to yourself, I've never heard of a Clinton before. Well, I know back in the day they made outboard motors and maybe chainsaws too. This was rebadged under their name between 1978 and 1980. And this one was made in November of 80, so it might be one of the last ones they made. Has a Sachs. This is a 505A motor, I think. And what's unique about this one is that, you know, unlike the E50s on the Puch Maxis I've worked on, this is called a jug, cylinder jug. The head and the cylinder are all one thing. And that has its ups and downs. I mean, if you're going to decarbonize the piston, you know, you got to take the whole thing off and then deal with putting the rings back on. But it leads to higher compression, and a lot of people seem to like these engines. They seem to be pretty solid. Now, I mentioned a lot of little quirky features. Well, you probably saw the obvious turn signals. These ones are in a little bit of disrepair. On the speedometer, which, by the way, goes up to 50 miles an hour. This bike has 1,400 miles according to this, and since this still works, I trust that. When it goes up to 50, these are also turn signal indicators. So when you hit the switch, which is, we'll focus here, right here, left turn right, these things light up. Now mine's not working, and I'll show you why. And then I have the other signal that's missing here. So, taking a quick look at the controls, you might notice there's two levers here, 1, 2. But this is the, I guess the decompression lever, the clutch engage lever to start it. And this one's the front brake. So you think, oh, does this moped only have one set of brakes? Oh no. I figured this out by accident when I was going to pedal it. So, you know, you can pedal, whatever. But when you hit a certain direction, it won't go. Coaster brakes. Yep. Just like on like a little kid's bicycle. Now, you might see the zip tie here. This was holding this adjustment up. It's a very, very simple lever system. I was messing with it last night. This adjuster just keeps screwing. The rear brakes are completely gone. On that note, so are the front. I'm both going to need new drum shoes. So I've been riding this around with no brakes, as you'll see here in a minute. I was a little curious to find out what kind of carb I'd find on here, and this is a Bing. Believe it or not, you recognize a lot of similar components, but it's a square Bing. This one's an 85-12-101. And everything on it seems to work just fine. The primer bulb works. This is the petcock right up here. Sorry, that's out of camera. That's right there. And then this is the airbox. I think this thing was kind of cool. Because in here, get these pedals here out of the way. New wheel bearings, anyone? This thing comes off. And there's this. And that's like an actual filter. I thought that was really funny. So one thing that was a little frustrating about this bike when I got it, it was not running. Went through Fred's guide. This thing's got great blue spark and so much compression. Sucked my finger in when I tested for it, and it's getting fuel just fine. One of the things that needed to function right was the choke. Choke is actually controlled up here. There's a lever for it, And this lever is completely frozen. I've hit it with PB Blaster. That's just not moving. So I looked at this and I said, what does this choke actually do? Well, that lever comes down here. All it does is it moves this thing. No air, no air. That's all it does. So I had a friend hold that with his finger while I pedaled, and this thing just came to life. I'm not sure quite how long it had been sitting. The fuel was really gross. There was no transmission fluid in it. But man, this thing, put fluid in it, put a new plug in. It had one of them champion plugs that I seem to find in all these vintage mopeds. Put a good NGK plug in there, fill her up with Type F. And this thing purrs. And it goes right up to 25, no complaints for being in the shape that it's in, which I think is pretty incredible. And the tank's clean too. Looks brand new in there. Someone actually, I mean, there's a little bit of bad gas at the bottom, but as far as I can see, that tank looks pretty good. So yeah, let me just take off the other side cover and I'll show you one more little thing that's kind of cool. Actually, before I do that, maybe someone can confirm this for me, but I believe this has electronic ignition. Because those are wires going to this lock. It's in the unlocked position. When you ride this bike around, this will hit the front fender and spark, and it looks really cool. Eventually I'm going to probably ground this out somewhere up here. There's a place where it looks like it belongs. Yep, that's a battery. Obviously this is no good. It's got a big old crack in the bottom. But I'm not expecting to find a battery on this thing. That's pretty cool. I think that might be for the turn signals, maybe. The battery definitely is. I think the reason it has a battery is when you're at a stop sign or a red light and you go to use the turn signal, this probably wouldn't have enough juice to really produce a bright turn signal. So that's probably what the battery's for. 6-volt battery right there. And all this heat shrink tubing that's seen better days. Alright, well, you're all waiting for me to start it, so I'll do that. The way I start it is I just stick my finger in this hole right here and kick it over and vary the throttle. Now, because there's no brakes, I can't take you guys on a ride, but I can set up my tripod somewhere and you can watch me rip down the street. Not a bad little bike. Alright, well, until next time, YouTube.